and then usually they walk away looking thoughtful.
Hi, I'm Andrew Harvey. I'm here chatting with André Arko about RubyConf and about his talk at RubyConf. This is in conjunction with multifaceted.io and with NInefold. Thanks so much, André, for coming to, well, not coming, but for taking some time out to chat with us today.
Yeah, no problem. It's definitely a fun thing to do.
It would definitely be impressive if you'd traipsed all the way out to Australia to talk to us. Maybe sometime.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do that, I hear Australia is a fun place to visit. So let me know.
Yeah. But we want to get to know you a little bit, and especially to start off with, how did you get into Ruby as a programming language, and how did you become part of the Ruby community?
It was basically for me, it was a really kind of happy accident. When I was doing undergraduate computer science work, the school that I was at had a very small computer science program, and I was significantly more interested in programming than basically everyone else in my super tiny program. And so I was looking for something interesting to do outside of class because I was not having to spend very much time on my CS classes. And while kind of randomly looking around on the internet, it seemed like everyone thought either Python or Ruby was like going to be cool and new. This was in 2004. So neither one of them had really taken off as like a, I don't know if significant is the right word, but like neither one of them had a huge share of anything yet. But they both seemed cool and better than Perl, which was the other significant contender in 2004. And so I got a copy of the Pragmatic Programmer's Programming Ruby book, and I just was really excited about how cool Ruby seemed. And right as I was getting really excited about it, I happened to notice that the International Ruby Conference in 2005 was going to be in San Diego, which was only like a 2-hour drive from where I was living outside LA. And so I grabbed the 2 friends I had who both also really liked programming, and we went to RubyConf in 2005. And it was a really super great experience, actually. That year, they had, I think, 120 people at RubyConf, and they were just beyond flabbergasted because they were expecting maybe 80 because there had been 60 the year before. So it was pretty great. Like the Rails core team was there trying to finish working on Rails 1.0, and there was, sort of lots of like experimentation. I saw one of the talks that I saw was Jim Wyrick explaining continuations via the Zelda Ocarina of Time game that he brought and played as part of his talk for the purpose of explaining continuations. That was pretty great. And during the conference, we just sort of started like hacking on things, and my friends and I wound up writing Our Planet, which was like a port of the Planet library that aggregates RSS feeds together into a sort of meta RSS feed. And by the end of the conference, we actually had a Ruby library that we'd open sourced and released for other people to use. And that was like super cool and kind of gave me my first like, oh my gosh, you can write open source and people will like start to use it. Not terribly long after that, Y actually used the Our Planet library for one of his like poetry art project websites. And so we were like, oh my god, fanboy, we're getting credit on Y's poetry project website because we wrote this thing that's amazing. And so that was really like exciting to have done something dumb while not even really knowing how Ruby worked and still like had it be useful to someone who needed something that did that. And so that totally helped get me excited about doing Ruby and about developing open source at the same time. So those 2 things are very closely related, sort of for me at least in my experience.
That's really cool. Delving a little bit more into you and Ruby, what is it that really excites you about the language?
Um, I think mostly just the like optimized for programmer expressiveness parts of it. I mean, there's definitely aspects that are problematic, but I really, really like being able to sit down and write some Ruby that says what I want rather than feel like I'm telling the computer how to let me tell it what I want to do. Ruby makes me feel like I'm just sitting down and telling the computer what I want it to do, and then it does it. And that pretty much always makes me feel happy, even if I'm even if I'm writing a dumb script that's just gonna like rename files for me. Like I'm like, oh, I totally just wrote what I wanted, and then it happened. It's kind of like some pretty awesome magic.
Cool. Now, onto your talk. Obviously, this has been a fair while coming, and a lot of effort has gone into the work which has resulted in this talk. But
yeah, for sure.
So normally I've been asking what inspired people to write their talk, but I feel like that's fairly evident with yours.
I mean, 6 months of work inspired me to write my talk. Years of work, really. Yeah, I mean, I spent, to kind of like fill in the background, I've spent the last 4.5 or maybe just 4 months working somewhere between 1 and 3 days a week for Ruby Central, specifically on the like Bundler and Rubygems renovation improvement infrastructure project. They were super kind and offered to sponsor me while I was talking about basically this plan that I wanted to accomplish. And so I've been able to work more on it and more quickly on it thanks to that support from Ruby Central, which has been really, really cool. I basically came up with that plan by going to conferences and kind of talking with people about the problems that existed and like what things we could try to do to improve the situation. And so it was kind of like months of occasionally having chats with people on Rubygems, on like the Rubygems core, various contributors to Rubygems, and then talking with people who did a lot of web services, and kind of like as the project gained clarity and solidity, I was able to like talk to people more concretely and get critiques of like various specific aspects, and then like adjust the plan and figure out more clearly what we were going to do. And that was super, like, I kind of feel like I can't personally take credit for the plan so much as the entire Ruby community sort of like collectively arrived at this plan over time, and I tried to like coordinate it and distill it down into something that was clear enough that we could make it happen.
Cool. So this in some ways is the public unveiling of the plan.
Yeah, in some ways for sure. I've kind of mentioned that it exists and described it super briefly at my talk about Bundler and Rubygems that I've been giving earlier this year, kind of like explaining the situation where rubygems.org went down last October and how we had to build a new Bundler API so that Rubygems could keep working. And kind of the like conclusion there is that there's this new plan and everything's going to be way better than with the Bundler API. And while I've been talking to people a lot about it, I don't think there's ever been a place where I've like sat down and outlined it, because it's been a lot of ideas, but not a lot of like, this will actually work. And so it's kind of like the months of work that I've done over like the last few months of work that I've done really have acted as the kind of like implementation testing ground for all of those ideas. And so we've had to discard some of them or add to them or tweak them, but we now have at least an implementation, even if it's not completely finalized. So we're sure that the stuff that we've done now works, and that, I think, is what makes this the point where it's really interesting to have the talk.
Cool. Now, as someone, after you finish your talk, as someone leaves, what would you like them to take with them?
Hopefully that Rubygems and Bundler are going to be way more awesome thanks to the combination of the Rubygems team, the rubygems.org team, the Bundler team, the Bundler API team, and Ruby Central giving me a grant. Tons and tons of teamwork there, but it's going to make things way, way more awesome.
Excellent. And finally, and more broadly about the conference, have you had a chance to have a look at the schedule, and have you maybe picked out some talks that you're really looking forward to seeing?
Oh man, the schedule this year looks amazing, actually. I can pull it up and talk about it right now, but I was both surprised and excited by the talks that I saw, and like wanting to go to many of them, I think. There's one talk about parallel execution, and I'm super interested in concurrency and parallelization right now. There's another talk about what is that called? The raft consensus algorithm. I was super excited to see that there's going to be like a talk about distributed systems and like communication between them and making them work. And like Raft is totally on my list of things that I really, really want to learn more about, but haven't been able to like make time for myself to do that. And I'm totally excited to go to that talk and learn about consensus algorithms. At very least, Xavier Shea's profiling and optimizing talk and Tony Arcieri's cryptography talk sound super interesting to me as well.
Excellent. Well, those are our 5 questions. Thanks so much for your answers. They were brilliant.
Thanks.
It's going to be a great conference. You're right. I mean, the schedule looks insane just because there's so much greatness on one page.
Yep.
But really looking forward to it, and yeah, look forward to seeing you in Miami.
Fantastic. See you then.